Yo, what's happening? Can you hear me okay? Because I have on a different microphone and I also have on a wireless microphone at the same time. My apologies for being a couple minutes late. I had to restart my computer at the last minute. So that was fun. Hey, I need y'all to turn that down just a little bit, maybe about like 5 points. Yeah. Let's finish this victory. Let's see here. Let's see here. What's up, Jason Lloyd? Hey, Sharon. I feel like I saw somebody talking to 2%. Hey, Randy, good to see you. I think I saw Four Elements United around here. What's going on, sir? Good to see you too, man. Thanks for checking on me. I appreciate that. I appreciate it greatly. Joe Tyson, Kimber Jack, what's happening? What's happening? Let's see here. Yeah, man, I was trying to get some files off my computer because my computer's running low on space. And it was a whole thing, and I had to eject the drive so I could start this. And I had to restart because sometimes hard drives don't eject. Pull up my notes here. I know the first thing I want to talk about is the EB3A. I did grab one during the whole like sales stuff, so that was interesting. Man, it's getting hot too. As soon as I turn my fan off, let me turn it back on. Y'all let me know if y'all getting wind feedback from that. Can you guys hear me? I don't see anybody complaining about the sound, so I hope that Resilio for the win. That's what's up for sure. That's too low, Ivan. I said by 5. Go up like 4 more. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. What about the fan? Y'all getting any wind feedback from this? Because this does not have a windscreen on it. Thanks, Randy. Yeah, the problem with Resilio is that I'm not syncing between devices. I'm syncing between my computer. I'm moving from my computer to a hard drive. It's actually my video footage. And I use rich copy to preserve the modify and creation dates. Although I think Windows does a good job of that now, but I don't risk it, so I just use rich copy. What's up, Ken? I can't feel it. You gotta buy one. That's why you can't feel it. 2%. Nathan, what's happening? CH, what's going on? Good to see you. Yeah, man. It's Friday. It's a good day. I'm not a thank God it's Friday kind of guy, but it's good to not have to work the next morning. Anchor 521 Blue Eddy EB3A. I'm gonna go EB3A. If they were the same price, I asked because Anchor offered that 10-year warranty, but EB3A obviously has higher output inverter. It has a lot of higher stuff. I wasn't impressed with that Anchor when it was $199. What I mean when I say that is I wasn't impressed enough for me to spend $200 on it for another 300 watt hour device when I have tons of 300 watt hour devices. It's a slick device. I was compelled. But my analytical version, my coin valuing version. Hold on 1 second, guys. Yeah, she needs to. I think she can use going to be laid down. It's a little late, but I don't think she's gonna make it. All right, all right, all right. Yeah, you heard her get some discipline. That's what you really heard. I can read lips. That's what's up. Shoot, I dig it. So you know, I'm just over here parenting. You know what I mean? All right. So the Anchor 521, 199. It was really interesting, but then my like super analytical coin minded self was like, I don't know, because it doesn't charge. If I remember, it doesn't charge very fast. I think it charges at like 60 watts. It has a bi-directional port. I also think that it has like a weird input port, but I could be wrong. But if I don't have any practical use for a device, then I kind of like disregard all the details. I just know that that one wasn't it for me. It was not it. It wasn't compelling enough. And I had just purchased, I believe, the Jackery, and I was kind of regretting hadn't got the Jackery when the Anchor 521 was 199. But then when I started thinking about it, I was like, nah, because my goal, if you haven't been around for a while, my goal is always to prioritize solar input and using the power. That changed over time, but it's still a priority to me. Hold on. It's still very much a priority to me. And the Jackery can charge at 85 watts and it could dual charge. I don't know if the Anchor can dual charge. I'm not sure. Wayne has one. I don't know if he uses it. Does anybody have the Anchor? It was Baby Dev. Montec. Oh, you're talking to Jason Lloyd. Okay. So I do want to talk about the EB3A power station. Oh, where are my notes at? What's going on here? What's going on here? Did they not sync? Man, talk about being unprepared, but did everything I could to prepare. Shoot. You back around bed? Do you see my phone like in the bathroom or something? The one with the case on it? It's the bigger phone. The Android. For some reason, my simple note didn't sync up, which is weird. That's usually not a problem. Dang, I don't know where it is. I gotta make sure it syncs, because otherwise, I don't have my notes. I suck at this. Please, it's probably up there. Dude, can you stay put? Did I miss a live last week, man? I'm all rusty. What the heck is going on here? Luckily, it's all their subscribers here. I ain't got to worry about weirdo people joining in, talking about me being unprofessional. Anyway, I do know that I'm supposed to talk about the EB3A, so let's talk about that. I got the EB3A. I put out the short today comparing the size. Hopefully, you guys saw the short. I'm going to have to close this because maybe it won't sync with that open. Thank you very much. You sitting down?
Just to talk about you.
Oh, you going to talk about me?
Yeah.
Talk about me.
Hey, everybody, I just want to talk about him because he waited to the very last minute to get prepared for the live. I'm thinking like,
did I wait for the very last minute?
You did.
How you know?
Because I was trying to convince you to get me a question. You were like, oh, I got your live. I ain't having no time, travel time, stuff like that. So I was like, all right, bet.
I mean, I do still need time to get ready for the live. All right. It wasn't about that.
When did you start getting ready?
I went up at like 30. I did. I was upstairs taking notes on this phone.
Why 30 minutes before your live? But that shit.
Why do I need more than 30 minutes? 30 minutes? You're bugging, fam.
No. This is the life. This is the life I lead with a procrastinator. Like,
I don't believe this to be an accurate representation of me procrastinating.
It is.
Literally, all I have to do is turn on lights and turn on my camera and plug my microphone in.
Yeah, your notes are done.
Give me that. I'm taking it. You ain't handing nothing out around here. Bunch of people. What's up, former Marshall, man? How you doing? How's your garden and everything going? And how's that power station treating you? I haven't heard from you guys in a while. What?
Equally wrong. Talking about a car crash in LA.
Oh wow. Dang, I didn't know about that. I was just telling Seta I don't watch the news.
Yeah, for that reason. It's like and there's a part of me that wants to go look into it, but it's like that's enough because I'm gonna feel like you.
Do it. Hit the like button for Dell. That's wild, man. That car crash in Los Angeles yesterday has me down. Damn. That's crazy.
Hey,
I hope your body does what it's supposed to and heals and stuff like that. Man, I don't know what to think about that.
Well, I don't think they were involved. I hope not.
Say it has me down. I don't know what to take of that. What do I take from that? Oh, has me emotionally down.
That's what I hope it is. I hope it ain't has you
like down.
Yeah, like
Three Blue Dragons. What's happening, Jake? What's going on? Yeah, that's not fair. I've been on that street many a times. What street? Why would you need to eat? Why would you need 5 EB3As? Should get one bigger one. Who was talking about 5 Blue Eddies? That's a stupid name, by the way. EB3A. Like, what's the? Anyway. Yo, I don't think I'm in Blue Eddie's good graces. What?
That person who was drunk on this old, everybody died, but the drunk person lived. Man.
What do you do with that, right? I don't know. Anyway, I'm not gonna let it get me down. That's why I don't watch the news. Yeah, it could get Dell down.
Let me absorb it all.
Yeah, you take all that energy, you deal with it, and take it to the Lord.
Because that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Solar Independent Utility Systems Manual, man. We got to do something with that name. That name's a mouthful.
Oh, thank you, Ken.
Hello again. Good to see you live again. My latest, I went live showing my Windows air conditioner running from the sun. That 2ATT wire made a difference. Stop power loss. Ooh, 2 I didn't know that's how you spelled
Oh, damn. Sorry.
I don't watch the news either, man. The news is not authentic. You know what I mean?
It's not balanced.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
That's
all right. Back to solar.
Back to anything, but yeah. Okay.
The chick was like, solar is so boring. I was like, I know.
Wait, from the class or somebody in the joint. Who the heck just walked in the house like that?
That's not it.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like an adult walking in the house. Excuse me. It still hasn't synced yet. That's wild.
Want me to get the
Nah, I'll have to kind of work around it.
You know, get the little thing that the tablet sits on, so it sits up for you.
Nah, I got one.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm. You do. You do. You do. You do. The garden is great. Also, my fig trees and what? Muscadines are getting ripe now. Still loving my Blue Eddy and even the Wackery. Hey, power is power, man. You know, the Wackery. It did its thing. It was weird, funky, piece of trash, but it still worked. So it wasn't quite garbage. What is your next project? What do you mean? I don't know. Solar and power station. You got to just talk what you can remember. Nah, I got it. The list is here. So I still haven't talked about the EB3A. So the dip, the screen is like really extremely inaccurate. I shouldn't say extremely. I know my TV pulls about 40 watts. When I plug it into the EB3A, it uses 70 watts on the screen. Now, what I do plan to do, I was talking to, I don't know what his channel name is. It could be more stuff, less stuff, more freedom. I'm not sure. I was talking to him about what I plan to do. I'm planning to put like a 50-watt load on it and then run it and see if it lasts for about 4 hours. Because what I'm wondering is if it's saying 70, because that inverter has to use that power to just be on. That doesn't necessarily make sense to me, but I wonder if it's just displaying it wrong. But really, when it comes down to the actual watt hours it's putting out the right amount of watt hours. So that's something that is interesting to me. But I'm gonna be honest, I got it for the culture. And I also got it because actually I really only got it for the culture. I mean, it's a dope device. I mean, it's the best sub 300 watt hour device you can buy, hands down. Still has its drawbacks. I'll do a video on it soon, which may put me further away from Blue Eddie's graces, but you know, it is what it is. That's why you guys saying thanks for coins via the super chats and the Patreons and the whatever. It's helpful because it allows me to still kind of throw some coins towards these purchases. That your boy is mindful of his coins. But it's been working out okay. It's so freaking small. It's like 268 watt hours is nothing. So I just come to terms with the fact that it's a 200 watt hour device and I just kind of live with it. It's 200 watt hours. I spent about 210 on it. You know what I mean? So I can deal with it. I have a YouTube channel about power stations. So I just had to kind of take it and move. But it's one of the better power stations. But the thing that makes it a less compelling buy for me is that I didn't need any more 300 watt hour power stations. But it's good to have because what I use it for is it feeds two smaller power stations, not always at the same time. And those smaller power stations typically run my internet and they run my TV. I can't trust any of those to do both at the same time because as soon as the sun goes away, you probably got about 2 hours of usage with the TV using about 40 and the internet using about 20. So if the dip is not full, and I don't like having my power stations necessarily full, if it's not full, then what you doing? Oh yeah, I got some on my feet too. Weird. I guess the mosquito bites. So that's my take on the EB3A. I'm gonna make a video about it. I did want to talk about the fact that it having the 8mm connector is really useful. What you think about that fan? Yeah, I like it too. I gotta make a video about that too, like a little short, for how much power it uses. I don't know. I plugging it into that, the power is not really registering. Plus, I always have something on it, so it's not really a good use. I just have to put it on the power station so I can just separately test and see how much power each level uses. This is not necessarily the best scenario, but think about it. If you have the EB55, no. If you have the EB70, the EB55 comes into play too. But if you have the EB70, the EB70 came with actual cables. I know, right? Mind blown. You could use that 8mm cable to charge the EB70 and you can use it to charge the EB3A. Now the EB55 is weird because it charges from solar on the XT60 connector. But remember, I showed you that I used that 8mm female to MC4 to change my MC4 to XT60 basically into 8mm. So all of that kind of works together. A whole nother language. I'm fluent. You know what I mean? I can't mess around with you. Joe Coy has a joke where he was in a store and the manager told him to stop messing with stuff, and his mom was like, "Don't talk to my son like that." He started mocking her in her language, her accent, and she's like, "I speak two languages, you dumb mother." So I speak solar and English. So I got old boy beat. But anyway. I don't know if I speak NOLA fluently anymore. Have you used Anderson power poles yet? Ken, you must not be watching the channel, which is okay. I respect that. But I'm all over learning about these power pole connectors now. They're like really versatile, and I understand them a lot better now because of what I had to do in figuring stuff out with getting like I actually have this connector, this thing on my desk. This came with my Agwe panel, which brings me into another subject. This 5521 port or connector, I have these things all over the place. I have like at least 3 MC4 to 5521. I have 5521 cables, but this one was going to be interesting because I have the battery clamps to female 5521. So I could use this Anderson to go into here to charge the battery, right? But this thing typically can only do about 5 amps. Maybe it could do 10 amps. But every time you look at a 5521 connector, you always see the wire gauge that accompanies it rated for 5 amps. So I don't know if I can trust that. So I have been messing around with Anderson cables a lot. I'm actually in the process of trying to figure out like what's my cable situation going to be inside of the house because I can't use them outside. They have to be waterproof. Somebody was suggesting that I replace my MC4s with Anderson. It's like, I can't do that. I need waterproof. I have mostly rigid panels and I need that. Water all over the place. Let me see what y'all talking about. Let's stuff for freedom. Hail to SSM. I don't know what that means. Let's see. That was my latest source. That's because getting rid of the restriction made the AC doable all day, every day, grid free. My AC uses 550 watts. My PV something through modified sine. I don't know about that. Need to get on that pure sine wave train. You should hook up with an additional battery and make it last longer. Okay. What's up, Tim? Super Solar Man. What's going on? Yeah, that's that's the guy we talking to at Instagram.
Oh, okay.
No, actually, I talked to a lot of people on Instagram, a handful. Oh, snap. By the way, UPS feature is broken. You can search on Reddit. Many people have issues. Mine will randomly restart using the. Okay, I'm gonna have to test that. I don't use UPS. I hate powering my power station from the wall. But I could use a power station, so problem solved. There you go. Okay. Yeah. That's funny. Apple started all this nonsense with not including the cable. Yeah, they're trying to keep it cheap, but the dip. I mean, it's full of features. You look at the size of that thing. If you watch man, it would get hot. Jeez, it ain't been hot in here almost all day. I feel like it's you bringing your hot box over. I was curious as you mentioned it before. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of stuff with Anderson. Agreed. Yeah. Okay. Connection types work out for me. Okay, we talked about that with the EB3A being 8mm. We talked about the EB55 if you have those and how that's kind of a good situation to be able to use both of those power stations, just depending on your situation. And what I was talking about with that is like, let's say you have the EB70, your EB70 gets full, and then you could just power dump more power into your EB3A if you have like one panel kind of coming in or one panel in one particular zone, which is really convenient. I try to get this like congruency in my systems where I'm using these things very strategically. For example, the Anderson connections and how I put that on my MPPT charge controller. It actually already had it. No. It had MC4 on one side, Anderson on charging the battery. But I took the MC4 cable, changed it to Anderson. So it's like Anderson all around. That way I can unplug it from my power station, my Ace Volt and my Alcatel, and plug it right into the charge controller and just keep it moving. So I like to have this kind of confluence. Confluence? I don't know how you say that. But yeah, I like to have them work together. So that's really important to me. I talked about 5521 a little bit. But Sete was saying, like, yeah, like 5521 has to go. And if you think about it, 5521 is on a lot of these power stations that can't take a high amount of watts because that particular connector is limited in some capacity. And when I got the Bouge RV 200 watt panel that they just sent me, the 9BB joint, I didn't really have any connectors to connect it to anything other than MC4 to 5521. And I had one extra MC4 to XT60 because I had an issue with EcoFlow where I had to swap my devices out. So I was able to keep the accessories. So I did adapt 5521 to 8mm into my EcoFlow's 8mm to MC4 to MC4 to XT60. But that port was getting really warm. And I was like, I've been having the conversations and doing the research. I can't quite find an actual rating on the barrel connector size of 5521. I don't know if that really matters. I think maybe it's the wire that dictates how many amps you can push through it. Just to put that in perspective, because these dots may not be connecting for every dot body. Think about it from this perspective. You have a 100 watt panel. That 100 watt panel is like 19, 20 volts, 21 volts. And you know, volts times amps is what gives you the watts. So if you got about 20 volts, you need about 5 amps to get your 100 watts. 5521 on a 100 watt panel works fine. It's not a problem. You got 5521 on a power station that can only take 60 watts. That's fine. That's not a problem. To get 60 watts and you got 20 volts, you're doing 20 volts at about 3 amps. Again, 5521 is fine for that. But when you take a 200 watt panel that's at 19 volts and 10 amps, 5521 may be a problem. You know what I mean? So that's what I tried to do, was getting warm. So I unplugged it and I just threw the MC4 to XT60 on the 200 watt Bouge RV panel. And that's what I've been having to use because that's the only device that takes in XT60. If I had that EB55, that would be another one. But the EB55 has the 8 amp input limit, which is kind of okay because 9 times out of 10, these panels won't get really that much above 8 amps. You have to have almost really ideal conditions to get 8, 9, 10 amps from a panel, which means you're getting, let's just say in the 200, in the example of the 200 watt panel, you're getting like 170, 180, 185 in watts. Now, my EcoFlow, when I had my 2 Renogy 100 watt panels in parallel, I have seen that thing get as high as like 181. I don't think I've ever seen those numbers again. And this 200 watt Bouge RV panel is kind of performing right around where all my other panels are, which is like in my climate with my sun conditions, it's about like 140 is what I'm seeing. But I'm still testing. So in that situation with this extra panel, I'm trying to decide whether I will use whether I'll go MC4 to 8mm, which is very versatile. I actually have, this came with my X-Star panel. This is an 8mm to 5525. 5525 is actually very capable. It's a very capable connector. It's also a little bit smaller. A lot of the power stations that some of us have use a 5525. That Mylan does, the Big Blue does, the Bull Bat does. Funny, kind of connecting to the dots. The EcoFlow River, I did not know that their 5521 ports only went up to 3 amps. I just found that out because I had to do some research and I was looking in the manual because I was trying to figure out what the voltage input was on it. I think it's 12 to 25. And then the amps are like 12 or something like that. It's really interesting how high the amps are.
You only going to what time, baby?
Um, what time works for you? Because 90 is gonna push us a little later in the evening because I started at 7. But is that gonna be a problem, or should we play it by ear? If you need me to stop at 60, I can stop.
Yeah, I feel like that's being reasonable.
Okay. All right, I can do that. Back to the EcoFlow and the 3 amp. The EcoFlow comes with a 5521 to 5525 cable. I have used that cable to try and charge the Mylan when I had it, and it would throw like 100 some odd watts into that dip, and that cable would get really warm to the point where it was like really malleable, I guess is the word. And that's when I was like, this cable is probably not that capable, but it makes sense because their ports are only 3 amps. Amps is the stuff that needs the bigger cables to flow through easily without resistance. Resistance is what causes heat, which is what causes the wire to get warm, which can cause your wires to start to melt. So I think that's an interesting connecting of the dots there. So that cable is pretty much useless outside of like small, um, outside of like small amp connections, like about 60 watts, 40 watts. Um, Even 60 watts is 5 amps. So about 30 to 40 watts. All right. Hey, what's up, Val? Good to see you. Suits Tech. I haven't seen your name in a while. I have 2 EB3As and 0 UPS mode issues so far. Another thing is we have to make sure that we're updating the firmware on these things. You can have a problem out of the gate, and that's fine. You don't want to have problems, but if you do have problems, we got to make sure we're on the latest firmware. I was actually testing the EcoFlow, and I just for my own peace of mind, I had to finish the process because I didn't want to feel like I was cheating them. But when I realized I hadn't updated my firmware in a while, I updated my firmware and then I tested the capacity again. It did not make a difference. I also learned about the Anderson from talking to Jasonoid because he loves Anderson. I get it. I learned that the 15 amp connector, the 30 amp connector, and the 45 amp connector are all the same size. I don't know how something in them is rated differently, but they're all the same size. So that worked out for me because I had like the charge controller was rated for a certain amount of amps. The cable that I got to the battery, the ring terminal to the connector was rated for a certain amount of amps. And I was like, man, is this going to work? But I bought them anyway. And the DC, the like watt meter I had was rated for a certain amount of amps. So once he told me that, I felt good about buying the watt meter. Because I bought the watt meter not thinking I was going to be able to use it. I just got it because it was so cheap. It was like $27. Those things with connectors on them, specifically MC4 connectors, are like $60. For a $20 device, they charge you $40 extra just to put MC4 connectors on them. Man, I literally was like, I'm never going to buy that unless I'm completely balling out of control off of YouTube and I absolutely need to see the power coming into these cables, which that decision is so old. It dates back to when I had power stations that didn't even tell me how much power was coming in. And that's when I was battling with that decision. Like, man, do I want to get a watt meter? Because I don't know what's going on. I'm just guessing here. I was just doing that. But I couldn't bring myself to spend a whole extra $40 for some freaking MC4 connectors on the end. It's like, what do I look like? And the cables was stupid short. I needed the cables to have some length on them, but they didn't. So. No. I did not. That had a bathroom. That's what's up. Tell the missus I said, hey. I feel like we both gonna be going to get slushies or drinks tonight in some capacity. What's up to Donald? I'm buying a 200-watt rich solar suitcase panel, $399. Okay, I feel like as long as you thought it through, and you feel like it's gonna work for your setup, I dig it. One thing to keep in mind, Jasonoid did a review on, I believe, a suitcase panel that was lighter. I feel like it's something started with a V or something like that. If he's still around, maybe he can answer what that panel was. But that may be an option as well. Something that folds, but it's not made of glass and aluminum. I think it's made of something a little bit different. So that may be something to think about. The down. What's up, Black Bummer? Yes, the cable wire is where the amp rating varies on Anderson. Okay, the cable and the wire? Or do you mean the cable, the connector in the wire? Not the outer shell, the thing inside, the little stuff that you put inside. I got some of it right here. This came with my watt meter, I believe. Man, these little things do not move easily. But these are like Anderson connectors. And they got like the little filament or whatever goes in there. Guys, can y'all go somewhere else for all of that? Thank you. Okay, there it is. It's the ATEM Solar 200 watt hybrid panel. Check that out. And if you grab one, go to Jason Noy's video, and if he has an affiliate link, use his affiliate link. Then like the SB200 is nice, but too much money. I don't understand that logic. You're saying that's too much money, but you're about to spend $400. The SB200 will likely go on sale for about $2 a watt. So if that's what you want, I will hold out for it, and also be on the lookout for any new panels that come out. I know EcoFlow has a bifacial that's 200 watts. I don't know if I like it or not. The jury's still out on it. But yeah, you're gonna spend $400. That SB200 and the PV, I believe the PV200 has been around that. But keep this in mind. Even if you had to spend an extra $50 on it, if that, like, my situation is different. I'm not out in the woods and going cross country and in an RV and in a van and all that jazz. I don't need that extra 50% increase in cost. But if you're actually out here doing stuff where being lightweight and being mobile is important to you, and power off grid is important to you, I mean, spending that extra $50. I mean, some of these panels are outrageously priced. I get it. But spending the extra $50 to have something that would be easier to get around with, I think you should do it. What's going on, babe?
He's trying to cast his screen to the TV.
Which TV?
The big one.
His whole screen?
Yeah.
He needs a Chromecast for that. And the Chromecast is over there.
It's connected.
Actually, is it over there?
Okay, well,
It might be connected.
let's know what that is done.
Yeah, the Chromecast is not interesting. I wonder if it will work with the monitor. You want to try it?
Yes. Oh, I can.
1 second, guys. La 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 la. I don't think your phone is advanced enough to do that, but we can try it. I know it's just like it's really simple to do it, so I just need the proper cable. So it won't take me but a second, as long as I can get this cable he needs. It'll power the monitor and everything. Just plug this cable into the bottom of his phone and then plug it into one of these ports on the side and see if it works. Get this mic back up here, around yonder. I need this phone to stop turning off. See if I can accomplish that. This app called J-Touch. It replaced this app I used to love called Floating Touch. I actually still kind of have the app because I root all my phones, so I can use Titanium Backup to back up my app. So I have, I think they're APKs, so I could install it, but it was a paid app, and you enable some features via paying, but I can't, if it can't connect to the store, then it can't verify your purchase. So I had been missing that app called Floating Touch. And you keep it connected to this back part. No. Take the cable out, because I don't want to mess up the port. Keep it connected to that, and then they just portfolio style. So you can actually just pull that piece up to the back. No. That's how it goes. We use these monitors. I got a shorter about that. Just saying, basically, like, we actually use these portable monitors. I don't just be mentioning this stuff on the live. because they sent it to me for free. I use it. That one I paid for though. That's 15-inch I paid for. They sent me the 17-inch for free. What? What is this screen? Yeah, that's different. Is the screen showing up here? Try a different port. La 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 la. So I'm messing around with this monitor for my son. Let's see if it just needs power. Try plugging that into one of the USB ports. Yeah, right here. There's two of them. Gotta go make some dinner with the family. Good to hear a lot, but they had a great weekend. You too. My wife said, "What y'all making?" I don't know if he's around. If he has a dip, he had a dip. Yeah, the PV200 is wired in parallel, so half the panel will still work if the other half is shaded. That's a good call out. Let's see. Okay, you say you'll check it out. Nice. So I'm at the wire size dictates the amp rating. Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. Ken. I just got two 100-watt Jackery panels the other day. Interesting. I dig it. I actually noticed that for Sister B, we were talking about those panels in the voltage 26 plus 26 because she's trying to put them in parallel. And I was entertaining them being able to more easily be paired in series if she got two of them. But 26 puts her over her 50-volt limit of the Goal Zero X3000. So I thought, I mean, panels do settle. So I asked Bean from Bean Energy what he thought about that. And he was like, I mean, it could be okay. Hopefully the over voltage protection, if it has it in a device, will protect it. But it's an interesting thing. All right. So overall, I feel like I'm just looking out at my systems and I really need to get my panel kind of squared away and start using my transfer switch. I don't quite have a power station that's suitable enough for that, but it could work. The reason why I say that is because, if I'm baselining on my power usage at about 500 to 700 watts, because it's going up over summertime because we use air conditioners and we have window units. The Ace Volt and the Alcatel, even though they're very capable devices, the max input they can take from solar is 500. So I can't quite go 500 for 500 because I'm using a little bit more. It could still work, but it just couldn't maintain it. Now, just thinking about that out loud, I mean, it wouldn't be powering everything in my house. So that could actually still work, but I really need to. It's like, man, I feel like on paper, I'm generating about 1.5 kilowatts an hour at ideal conditions. Then you take that and you take away about 20% of that. So I would say, let's say realistically, when I look at like the rigid panels, I should be producing about a kilowatt of solar per hour on all of these panels. I have a 320. Shoot, I have two 400s in one space, two 100s in the same space, another 200 back here, another 100 back here, another 100 back here. I'm not going to add all this up. Then I have a 200 in the front, a 100 in the front, and a 50 in the front. And that's not even accounting the Bourgeois V just sent me a 200-watt panel. That's not counting the fact that I have an HUSD that I can fix now, which begs me bringing up. Bourgeois V sent me the panel and they sent me the repair kit like I asked for. So that's pretty dope. So I have the ability to fix that panel. The only thing I'm kind of concerned about, not really, Yeah, I'm not concerned about that. I was gonna say the connectors are weird for Bouge RV, and by weird I mean their little tool to pop the MC4 connectors apart, because popping it apart can sometimes be hard. Um, their little tool doesn't fit any of my other stuff, and I never had a Bouge RV panel, so we'll see how that goes. What I do is I'll take. I talked about this in one of my videos. I'll take my knife. This is a Kershaw. I forget what it's called. I'll take this Kershaw. I don't have anything I could show on it. I don't think. But you know how the MC4 connectors have those things that snap, and they're the things you need to push in. Well, that edge, if you take that knife, a sharp knife, and you kind of cut across that edge to take some of the hook off of it, because you know it kind of hooks back to get stuck, and you got to push that down so that it can pull through. If you take a knife and you just take a little bit off that edge, it makes that edge not as pointy. So then it's like a little smoother and they come out a little easier. I've had to do that a couple times, even when the tool from Renogy that I like doesn't work. So I do have the ability to fix that panel now. So that's cool. I appreciate them doing that, and I'll be talking about that in the video when I make it. All right. I'll look at that EcoFlow. Um, I actually just reached out to All Powers. All Powers reached out to me about a power station. It was like a smaller power station. I was like, I don't really think that would be appealing to my audience. And they were like, well, what about the 140 panel and the 200-watt panel? Would you want one of those? And I went and I looked at them, and then I saw that they have another 200-watt panel, but has ETFE, and it looks like there's some power cells. So I was like, would y'all be willing to send that one? So you could check that one out to download. I think it's 430, so not quite 450. It's All Powers. We'll see how that go, but I mean, it looked promising, which is why I asked for it. The best way to pop your MC4 is use thumb from one hand. Yeah, okay. That's not the best way. That way works, but okay. You keep going with that. So as it relates to using my batteries, I have two Dr. Prepare 100 amp hour batteries at 12 volts. That comes out to be 1280 watt hours. I don't know if you get all of that power from it. I don't know. But what I've been doing with those lately is they don't get charged a lot. They don't get used a lot either. I'm not doing a really good job of like using my power. But as long as nothing gets full, then I'm not really losing out. So I'm once power stations start to get full and you have no place to put that power, then you start to lose out on power. But if your power stations never get full, if you're pretty much using your power, then I'm not really losing out. But I'm still not using that power as strategically as I want to. I don't even know how that makes sense, to be honest with you. It's like I'm generating all this power, but am I actually using it? Like, what's going on here? That's why I feel like I need to get the transfer switch figured out, because I need to see some real world examples of my power going down. Now, my power bill has gone up because we're using 3 air conditioners. We have one big one, 10,000 BTU here. We have like an 8,000 BTU in our bedroom, and we have another 5,000 BTU, maybe 6,000 BTU in the kids' room. We don't run them all the time. The ones for the bedrooms pretty much run all night. Uh, the one over here, we only use it to really just knock the hot off the house, kind of cool it down, maybe 2 hours at max. I even got to the point where I start putting a timer on it because sometimes we'll forget it on. We'll just be kind of like chilling in the cool and be like, we don't need this air on right now. So I start putting a timer on it, turn it on, set it to an hour. It does its thing, and then it turns off. But as it relates to having the two batteries, what I've kind of like an unofficial plan is maybe I'll take one of those batteries and just kind of have it always kind of full and at the ready for when power goes out. And then I could kind of, keep the internet running, keep the TV running for a substantial amount of time at about 60 watts, plus whatever inverter losses I get from using that little Best Tech inverter, which may be like 10 to 15%. So I always kind of have that to lean on, and that gives me a little bit of peace of mind because I use my power stations. So sometimes you have a situation. I don't. It doesn't happen often, but my wife and I, we've had a conversation or two about this. Where it's like, if the power goes out right now, I hope you got one for backup. And I'm like, I kind of, sort of, maybe, kind of. So that battery being there, always having about 1,000 watt hours in it, it's something I could kind of rest in, and then I could just play with everything else. But the caveat to that is, if I've milked all my power stations and that's all I have left, and the next day is gonna be sunny, I'm like, I may use it. I may use it. You know what I mean? So it's all strategic for me as it relates to that. But having that extra one, not extra, but having one that's set aside that I don't use as much. Another reason why I don't use it as much is because it doesn't have the ring terminal to Anderson on it. So in order to charge that one, I either have to use my clamp meter, my AC LiPo battery charger. I would have to take the other one off or buy another one, which I may do anyway. You know what I mean? That's kind of why I'm starting to investigate cables and stuff, trying to figure out the best, easiest way to accomplish some of these things that I want to accomplish. So that's interesting. Ampere Time also reached out to me, which was super cool. They're slated to send me a battery as well, which is gonna be dope. Because then now I'll have another like battery that I could kind of use and set aside or whatever. And maybe that battery becomes the one that I put all my connectors on. I just never know. You never know how this stuff is gonna pan out. But getting into those batteries is really cool because I already had the Best Tech inverter. I already had the MC4 I already had the 5521 female to battery clamp. So once that battery came into my system, I could at least do something with it. It wasn't just like this abstract kind of thing where I needed to kind of like, okay, I got a battery now, I got to buy an inverter. I already had one. I still want to entertain the idea of getting a bigger inverter, but I have to think about that. Like, what point would it really serve? And I have to think about it because you can discharge these things at like a 1C rate, I believe. And if you do that, I guess you could go like 3,000 watt inverter just to have it, but it will be a situation kind of like the EB3A where your inverter is much more capable than the watt hour capacity. So if you throw 3,000 watts at like a 1,280 watt hour battery, that it will only last for maybe about 20 minutes. But 20 minutes could be the difference between something working and something not working. And, food spoiling earlier, or as my NO folks say, spurling. Food spoiling earlier, or not being able to do something, or being able to do something that you couldn't do before. Also, something that I have to keep in mind is that these inverters, the larger they get, I would say the more power they use to turn them, like to run. So having a 300 watt is cool because if I have small loads, then I'm only using that 300 watt inverter at its idle usage versus a 2,000 watt inverter or a 3,000 watt inverter at its idle. So it's all very peculiar. But I would like to. I'm gonna tell you what would be ideal. If I had like a monstrous battery, like a 200 amp hour dip, would be cool because then I know like I got some legit power in there. I could pair that up with a 2,000 watt inverter, and that would be kind of sweet. You don't necessarily have to run it at a 1C rate. If people don't understand what that means, I just kind of learned it um, in the last like 6 to 8 months or whatever. The 1C rate is basically charging or discharging at full capacity. So if it's 1,200 watts, you're using it at 1,200 watts. So when people say a 0.2 C rate or a 0.5 C rate, 0.2 is just 20%, 0.5 is just 50%. I don't know why we say it in such a fancy way instead of just saying 20%, but maybe those are just battery terms that people who rock with batteries use, and I get that. I ain't hating, but I never knew what that stuff was when Will was talking about it when I was first watching this channel. I was just like, okay, whatever 2C rate means. What's up, Steve? Haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, it works. It works on most of them, but boy, when you run into one that it don't work on, the frustration. I'm not a cussing man, but sheesh, man. I don't use a tool. I gotta stay tough. Me, I think that. Let's see what I do is use bigger power stations daytime to run AC and smaller one to run a fan, running until no sun battery, then stop using the device. Interesting. I dig that. Yeah, the sun is out, use it. Sun is gone, stop. I dig it. Time to start building those adapter cables. Ring to Anderson, XT60, XT90, etc. Should be a breeze for you. Will give you all the options. Yeah, I don't need 60 and 90 yet. I actually thought about buying. I know I should build them, but I actually thought about buying an XT60 to Anderson because my Alcatel and my Ace Volt have that XT60 connector that charges at 12 volts to 10 amps. So I'm curious about just trying that. The only thing is, I feel like those cables are really short, and I would need to have a little bit of length on it to make it kind of feasible. But learning about this idea of wire gauge and amps and stuff that it's rated at is really interesting and cool. I think it. I don't know. I don't know at what rate it gets complicated as it relates to the length of the cable, but like a 3 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot cable, I feel like you should be pretty good. That's not advice because I don't know, but I'm just guessing. That's where my comfort zone would be. When you start getting into like, 50 feet, 30 feet, I feel like you kind of may have to take some more things into consideration. But I literally don't know. I thought voltage was the stuff that was easy to go through at distances. But if a short cable is rated for 20 amps, if you make that short cable double the size, is it still rated for 20 amps or should you go bigger? I'm sure some of you guys know in here, so I look forward to your input. I don't have an opinion about those batteries. I know Renogy is not cheap, so some stuff because it costs the cost is so prohibitive for me. They would just have to send me one for me to put my hands on it and then be able to see the value, which is the benefit to having like a YouTube channel and being able to get sent stuff because there's some stuff I just wouldn't mess around with. Like I wouldn't if nobody sent me if nobody sent me a folding panel, I would never buy a folding panel. I don't think never say never, but $2 a watt compared to $1 a watt, and I ain't a woods guy. This is like I have no use for it. But getting them, you kind of start to see the benefit of being able to just like I know I prefer bifold over everything else. Bifold is bigger, but Rockpell's sending me that quad fold because I had a thing against comparatively in comparison to each other. I prefer bifold over quad fold. But when Rockpell sent me the quad fold, I start to see the benefit of having something that was a little bit smaller. I don't like deploying it, but if you need to put something in a car and to have actual space, a bifold is a lot harder to accommodate or can be a lot harder to accommodate depending on your size allotment than a quad fold, which is a little bit smaller and a little thicker. What's up, Sleeper? What's going on? I've had two of them. I have, I don't know how to read this. Two of them for 7 years and still working great. The VMAX batteries. Yeah, that's one thing about batteries. When I was early on in my journey to get, renewable energy through solar, I had always thought about this idea of using batteries just to pass through power. I wasn't focused on storing the power. So even if I got a battery that didn't have the ability to store its watt hour capacity, but if let's say, I can't even think about it in those terms, but let's just say you have a whatever watt hour battery, but it's like a AGM or whatever lead acid. But I only had a 100 watt panel, which is only going to pass about 60 to 80 watts thing through that dip anyway. And I'm a pass through power guy, and that battery doesn't store power, but it can actually get charged enough to pass through the 80 watts. Then I would have been fine with that. It's like, okay, like the other person said, I got the power during the day when the sun is out. When the sun is gone, the battery is useless to me because it doesn't store anything. I would be with that all day. And I thought about that many times to get to my goal cheaply, but I didn't understand it well enough to be able to do that. And I couldn't really get the answers that I was looking for. I was trying to get people to like answer this question for me. Like, how can I just use this sun? What's the smallest battery I can get to just pass through this power? I have a little bit better understanding now. So if you think about 12 volts at like 10 amp hours, that's 120 watts. So you get a 12 volt, 10 amp hour battery, you could pass. Now, I'm not saying you can because you have to think about some things there, I suppose. But I'd imagine that you could, your 100 watt panel paired with that solar charge controller going into the battery to an inverter or a little, 12 volt to USB-C 100 watt dip, that'd be fine. Boom, you got power. Spent a few dollars, 100 some odd bucks, and you got something. But then you have to compare that to just spending 100 bucks on a power station. So it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. All right. I'm going to be wrapping this up soon. I talked about the batteries. Talked about ampere time. Okay, that's important. And I talked about that. All right, sweet. Take a moment to plug my Instagram. I share super casual videos and photos over there, stuff that's not really meant for YouTube. So I encourage you to follow me over there, askivesolar. It's a good time over there with that stuff that I be sharing. I also want to, again, thank you for those people who, say thanks for coin, who send me like donations and stuff like that. I greatly appreciate that. It's very helpful. And I also want to thank folks for watching the videos, man. Hopefully you guys are watching the videos to the end. It helps if you start your session with one of my videos. But, that's not a thing you have to be super mindful of. I just appreciate you watching the video, watching the whole video, and then engaging with the video, commenting, liking, and all that jazz. I'm on the road to try to get to 10,000 subs. Hopefully, if I am in Blue Eddie's bad graces, when I get to 10K, they won't be able to deny me. So I can get that AC300 at some point because that thing is a monster. And then lastly, babe, can you unplug that power station and reach it to me? This is the Cell. Thank you very much. T300. I still need to do a video on this. And once I do that video, I think I'm going to give it away. I'm pretty sure I'm going to give it away. It's an interesting little device. It's like Jackery style. What I wanted to compare it to was the Jackery 240. It's kind of like in that league where everything is pretty much 50 watt input. It does take an 8mm port. I need to do a video on it. If I be honest, I'm not excited about doing a video on it. But it's a cool little device. It's just me personally, I'm not excited about doing a video on it. But with all of these things, it's about price. It's really about price. It comes down to how much you can get this for. So I'm going to make this video soon. But when I make the video, you guys will know first in terms of what the rules are to win this if you want to win it. What I want you to say
You clean up
in the video, if you're interested, whenever I put this video out, I have to record it and edit it and upload it. When that video comes out, I want you to watch the video and then comment on the video and say, looking forward to when you hit 10,000 subs. And if you put that in, you could say anything else, but just put that in the comment as well. If you say that, then I'll pick a comment randomly and whatever, I'll comment under your video and let you know that you've won. Be on the lookout for fake accounts because they're not running rampant on my channel anymore, but they were for a little bit. It wasn't crazy, but I'm one of those people who do reply under the comments, so it's a bit inconvenient because everybody says like it won't be me, I won't comment under, but I do use Telegram and I do reply in the comment. But what I typically do is I will only heart a comment from that video of the person who won. so that they're the only person who enters. Now, if you make a comment and you don't put that in there, then I engage with you how I normally engage. But for the people who say looking forward to when you hit 10,000 subs, I'll consider that as an entry. Please don't do it more than once. Please understand that I can only shift this to people in the, I think they say contiguous. I don't know. I don't know how you say that. I always read it. But the 48 connected states. And you may have to pay for shipping. You may have to pay for shipping, man. I got a little, man. Shipping hit my pockets hard. These last few things I needed to ship out, it hurt a little bit. But this one's pretty small. It shouldn't cost much, and I probably will be able to absorb the shipping. But at some point, I'm going to have to start getting people to pay for shipping because it hurt my pockets. I just need y'all to be okay with paying for shipping. If I'm feeling or I can accommodate half, we'll figure that out. But that's it. Do y'all have any questions? That Anderson stuff was really interesting. It was cool to learn that. My next video, I hope, will be, I want to make another AceVolt video about its UPS, kind of, sort of. I need to make 2 videos about these BougeRV panels. I was thought about putting them in one video, but I want to make separate videos about them because they're both a little different. They have some different parameters that may be better served for 2 separate videos. Plus, I agreed to do videos for each, so I kind of have to do that. Let's see what y'all snapping and trapping about. What's up, Allie Joe Plays Joe? What's happening? Been a minute. Okay, Valsa says 12 rated for 30 amp voltage drop. Depends on the length of the cable. All cables, regardless of gauge, have a manufacturer's loss, feet, meter, spec that can be used to determine voltage loss. What about amps? There can be a small voltage drop due to internal resistance in the wire, but voltage is not as affected by wire thickness as amperage is. So wire thickness impacts amps, but does wire length impact amps? Or does wire length impact volts? No, wait and see what is offered with the AC 500. Yeah, that's true. The AC 500 has a bunch of weird ports on it. I don't know how those ports will pan out for most normal folks, but it's a couple connectors, and they stripped you down to 3 AC ports, which I think is interesting. I mean, that's an easy solution. And maybe it's nice to have those ports. I look forward to when some of the bigger channels start talking about it, but I don't know what those ports are for. I don't really care about them. If I can't figure out a way to use them to charge batteries quicker at this point in my solar journey, then they're almost useless to me. I know they have some implications with RV like ports and transfer switches maybe and stuff like that, but I don't know. I just know they took away 3 outlets. So I'm using 10 gauge cable. Should I change the gauge? If yes, what gauge? It depends on what you're using for. It's a moving target. For example, I just got hit. Watch the last live Ali Jojo Place because I feel like I talked about wire gauge in that one. I may have to go through and put some timestamps. Would anybody be interested in helping me with timestamps? I'm just gonna put that out there. It's work. It's tedious. But if you're interested, let me know. Because for people who watch the playback later, maybe they could shoot me a few timestamps in a comment. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you talked about this here. It doesn't have to be super granular, but just to have some kind of, okay, topical, like, okay, boom, this here, boom, this here. It doesn't even have to have the subject. If you just had the timestamps of things, I could just go there and kind of figure it out and tweak it and all that jazz. But anyway, that's kind of a out of my mind, out of my head kind of moment. But I did talk about that stuff last week. Where was I going with that? I don't know. So let's see what y'all talking about. I appreciate that, man. God bless you too. Ensure you mention U.S. only for giveaway because I may win. You have to ship to Canada. I think I mentioned U.S. only, like the 48 states. Listen, I don't know what it would cost to ship it to Canada. If somebody wanted to pay the money and deal with all of that foolishness, I'd figure it out. I mentioned last time, I wonder what realistically it would take for someone to just take something into Canada for someone. Like y'all meet at the border, and maybe you go to a Tim Hortons, hang out for the day, and then come back Maverick style. But you took a power station in for somebody. I don't know. I know you have to declare stuff and all that jazz, but I don't know. Maybe it'll work out. Wire length impacts volts. The gauge will carry the current it is designed for. From your mouth to my ears. I want to believe that. It makes sense to me, but I don't hear many people talking about that. Okay, using three 200 amp shell panels. What does shell panel mean? You mean like folding panels? And when you say 200 amps, I think I'm missing something. 200 watts? My understanding in simplistic terms is the wire gauge is to deal with the amps. And you only have to deal with the amps when you're dealing with stuff in parallel. And when you get to these bigger power stations that are more capable, they typically they have higher voltage allotments, so you don't have to worry about parallel. You can just put stuff in series. Series is better because one, you don't need an adapter. Two, voltage over various lengths is easier to move, which is why we do the whole AC thing instead of DC, which is why we're at 120, and even some European countries go all the way up to 240 to kind of like extend the ease by which we can move electricity through wires. You can also move higher volts through thinner cable than you can amps. When the amps get higher, you got to get some really serious cable, and cable is expensive. So to run that much thick cable to go a certain length to carry all those amps is very costly, which is why Will, in one of his videos, he very astutely talked about how 24 volt, 48 volt, and even 96 volt systems are better than 12 volt systems. 12 volt systems are more common, but they kind of cost more because the amps or whatever. I don't know. So I would say I have 10 gauge cable. That's the biggest gauge cable I have. And I have 2 panels in series. So that means it's carrying about 10 amps. And if you look at, let me just show y'all something real quick. Again, I talked about this last time, but we'll end on this. I'm gonna share this HQST. Let's see if I can figure this out. We're gonna run that over here, run the joules. We're gonna share the camera, share screen, boom dizzle, hot kizzle, for shizzle. All right, check that out. This is a HQST cable. The wire gauge on this one is 12, and you can see 12 gauge wire can carry 20 amps. Now that's the max it's rated for. What's up?
So, can I delete one game to buy this one?
I'll give you one chance to do that. Don't ask again, okay?
Okay.
All right. You can see 12 gauge can carry 20 amps, 10 gauge can carry 30 amps. To actually get this amount of amps through your cable, you'd almost have to have 3 200-watt panels in parallel to get the 30 amps. And I have been told, as I always say, by Will Prowse and Armand Allen, who's been an electrician for a good bit of his life. I think he's retired now. That once you get above about 15 amps, you need to put fuses on those lines. So even just being bothered with something that uses this much amps is kind of weird in the beginning. But this was an education for me because I don't know that I needed 10 gauge cables. And if what Valser is saying is correct, then I definitely didn't need 10 gauge cables because my Renogy 320 is a 40 volt 10 amp. My 200-watt panels in series are 40 volts, 10 amps. I don't have anything. If I put those panels in parallel, then I would be in a 20 amp range, and then that 12 gauge could kind of do it, but you'd be right at the max of it. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I am about 14 minutes over. Y'all be beautiful. I'm out of here. I guess I could pull this down. Hey, holla.